Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving deep into a book that, I'm not kidding, completely changed how I think about work. Cal Newport's Deep Work. I mean, did you know the average person gets interrupted something like every 11 minutes at their job? It's crazy. This book is the perfect antidote to all that chaos. It's really a blueprint for doing the best work you're capable of and, honestly, living a more satisfying life in a world that seems designed to distract us. You know the feeling, right? It's this bizarre modern problem. You can spend 10, maybe 12 hours just working. You're bouncing between emails, Slack notifications, meetings that could have been emails. You're constantly busy. But then you shut your laptop and you get this sinking feeling that you didn't actually move the needle on anything important. Well, here's the good news. That's not just you. It's not a personal failure, it's the environment we're all in, and it's exactly what this book tackles head on. So if that sounds at all familiar, then you are in the perfect place today. We're about to break down exactly how you can start to reclaim your focus. And hey, if you want to get a handle on more game-changing ideas like this, do me a quick favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It honestly makes a huge difference and lets us keep making these in-depth explainers for you. All right, let's look at our roadmap. First, we're going to start with the big idea, what Newport calls the deep work hypothesis. Then we'll explore why this is so unbelievably important right now. After that, we get into the good stuff, the 4 practical rules for making this happen. And we'll wrap it all up by talking about what it means to actually live a deep life. Let's do it. Okay, so first things first, before we can build anything, we need a solid foundation. This section is all about getting on the same page, defining the key ideas of the book so we all know exactly what we're talking about. This is the core argument that everything else rests on. So, what is deep work, really? Well, according to Newport, it's when you're doing professional stuff in a state of pure, distraction-free concentration. And, this is key, it pushes your brain to its absolute limit. When you do this, 3 amazing things happen. You create brand new, really valuable stuff. You get better at what you do, and maybe most importantly, what you create is incredibly hard for anyone else to just copy. And then, of course, you've got the total opposite, shallow work. The best way to think about this is like it's the junk food of your workday. It's all the low brain power, logistical stuff you do while you're half distracted. Answering emails that don't matter, setting up calendar invites, mindlessly scrolling through a feed. This stuff creates almost no new value, and pretty much anyone, or even an algorithm, could do it. Okay, so when you put them side by side like this, the difference is just crystal clear. Deep work, tough on the brain, creates massive value, and it's hard to replicate. Shallow work, easy on the brain, creates very little value, and it's super easy to replicate. This simple contrast leads us straight to the central thesis of the entire book, the deep work hypothesis, and it's this. The ability to do deep work is becoming more and more valuable in our world, but at the exact same time, it's becoming more and more rare. So what? Why should you care about any of this? Well, because in our current economy, being able to do deep work isn't just a nice-to-have skill anymore, it's an absolute economic necessity. In this section, we're going to see why mastering deep work is basically like having an economic superpower. And as a bonus, it's also a huge source of genuine satisfaction. Newport gives us this super simple but really powerful formula. The amount of high-quality stuff you create isn't just about how many hours you clock in. It's the time you spend multiplied by how intensely you focus. Just think about it for a second. You could spend a whole 10-hour day half distracted writing a report, and it'll probably be fine. Or you could spend 3 hours in a state of pure, uninterrupted deep work and create something truly exceptional. Deep work is how you max out that intensity of focus part of the equation. To really thrive today, with things changing so fast, Newport says you need 2 fundamental abilities. Number 1, you've got to be able to master difficult things quickly. And number 2, you have to be able to produce at an elite level, meaning your work is top-notch quality and you get it done fast. And here's the kicker. What's the engine that powers both of those abilities? You guessed it, your capacity for deep work. Building on that, he says there are basically 3 groups of people who are going to win in the future economy. Now, we're mostly interested in the first 2. The high-skilled workers, people who can work with and get the most out of smart machines, and the superstars, the people who are just the absolute best at what they do. To get into either of those groups, you have to be able to learn complex stuff and produce things that can't be easily replaced. The third group, the owners, well, they have the capital. For the rest of us, deep work is the way in.
So the big question is, how do we do it? Okay, so we've got the what and the why totally nailed down. Now for the really fun part, the how. We're shifting from the theory to the actual practical stuff. In this section, we're going to dig into the first two essential rules for building a deep work practice in your own life.
Rule number one is to actually do the deep work. But Newport knows that one size does not fit all. So he gives us 4 different styles to choose from. Think about which one sounds like you. First, there's the monastic approach. This is for people who can pretty much eliminate all shallow work, like a writer hiding out in a cabin. Then you have bimodal, where you split your time. Maybe you do deep work for 3 days straight, then you're totally available for 2 days. The rhythmic is probably for most of us. You make deep work a simple daily habit, like setting aside the first 90 minutes of every morning. And finally, there's the journalistic, for the pros who can just switch into deep work mode whenever a pocket of free time opens up.
Now, whichever philosophy you pick, Newport says you absolutely need a ritual. Why? Because a ritual makes the process automatic. It saves you from having to use up your limited willpower just to get started. It has 3 parts. First, location and duration. Decide where you'll work and for how long. I'll be at my desk from 9 to 11 a.m. Second, rules and metrics. Decide how you'll work. Phone is off, no internet. My goal is to write 500 words. And third, support. What do you need to make it happen? I'm going to have my coffee and water ready to go. This simple structure makes starting that hard work so much easier.
Okay, on to rule number 2, and this one is a big one, and it goes against pretty much everything our modern culture tells us. You have to embrace boredom. Here's the logic. Your ability to focus is like a muscle. It's not a switch you can just flip on when you need it. So if every single spare moment of your day, waiting for coffee, walking to your car, is filled by pulling out your phone for a quick hit of something new, you are actively training your brain to be distracted. You're making that focus muscle weaker. So how do you train that muscle? He gives us some great exercises. One is called productive meditation. This is where you use otherwise idle time, like when you're on a walk or a commute, to focus intensely on one single professional problem. Just turn it over and over in your mind. Another is to schedule every minute of your day. It sounds intense, but time blocking helps you be intentional instead of reactive. And a huge one, schedule your internet time. Use it in specific blocks instead of letting it be this constant drip of distraction all day long. All right, let's keep going with these practical rules. Section 4 is all about taking on the 2 biggest enemies of deep work, all the distracting digital tools we use, and all the shallow tasks that somehow manage to fill up our days. This section is about how to win the war on distraction.
Rule number 3 is about being really smart with your tools. Now, a lot of people just think this means quit social media, but it's a much deeper shift in your thinking. See, most of us use what Newport calls the any benefit approach. If a new app or tool offers any tiny little benefit, we jump on board, and we totally ignore the huge hidden cost to our attention. Newport says we should instead adopt the craftsman approach. Think of a master woodworker. They only use a tool if its positive impact on their craft dramatically outweighs any negatives. And here's a brilliant way to actually apply that craftsman mindset. Newport suggests a little experiment. Step 1, for 30 days, just quit any optional social media or networking tools. Just for 30 days. Step 2, after that month is over, you ask yourself 2 simple questions. First, would the last 30 days have been noticeably better if I could have used this service? And second, did anyone actually care that I wasn't using it? And if the answer to both of those is no, then you quit it for good. It just failed your craftsman test. That brings us to our final rule. Rule number 4, drain the shallows. See, it's not enough to just add deep work to your schedule. You have to be just as aggressive about getting rid of the shallow work that's already there. Every hour you spend on low-value tasks is an hour you can't spend on high-value work. And not only that, it drains the mental energy you need for those deep efforts in the first place. So how do you actually do this? Well, first, here's a challenge. Quantify it. For 1 week, just track what percentage of your time is spent on shallow work. I promise the number will probably scare you. Next, try what's called fixed schedule productivity. Decide you're going to finish work at 5 p.m., no exceptions. That forces you to be ruthless with what you say yes to. Also, just make yourself a little harder to reach. You don't have to reply to every email in 5 minutes. And finally, before you accept any meeting invite, ask yourself, is this meeting really the best way to solve this problem? We've covered the what, the why, and the how. For this last section, we're going to zoom out a little bit. Because this idea is so much bigger than just being more productive at your job. It's really about a philosophy for building a better, more meaningful life. And really, this is what it all comes down to. Committing to deep work isn't just some new productivity hack. It's about connecting with this long human tradition of craftsmanship and quality. It's what allows you to get into that state of flow that psychologists say is one of the biggest sources of human happiness. In a world that's constantly trying to pull you toward the superficial, choosing to build a life around deep work is a pretty radical act. It's about reclaiming your own mind and building a life that has substance and purpose.
So I want to leave you with one final question that's designed to push you from just listening to actually doing. Take a look at your calendar for this coming week. What is the single most important deep work task, the one thing that will create the most value that you are going to schedule right now? Don't just think about it. Block out the time, decide on the place, and set the rules, because that's how the deep life really begins. Thanks for watching.